ncIMPACT is made possible by funding from Civic Federal Credit Union. ncIMPACT is a production of UNC-TV Public Media North Carolina in association with the University of North Carolina School of Government.
People do comment on it when they come into town.
And it can be a real shot in the arm to the local economy in northeastern North Carolina.
When I heard of a potential $600 million project coming to our county, I was excited.
But it hasn't been without controversy either.
Education, jobs, health, all these issues affect you. Leaders from across the state, people just like you, are working to make things better. The question is, could you do this in your community as well? I'm Anita Brown-Graham. This is ncIMPACT. Renewable energy is on the rise in North Carolina and across the country. Most alternative energy investments go to rural communities, mainly because of their abundant land and sparse populations. 3 rural counties in North Carolina have been working to be at the forefront of this industry as they build their local economies. Let's first look at the impact of the Amazon Wind Farm in Pasquotank County.
Yeah, so the Amazon Wind Farm is roughly a 10,000 acre project with 104 wind turbines. The tips of the blades are just below 500 feet. The area that they're built in is called, we locally call it the desert.
It used to be the southern tip of Dismal Swamp. It was drained years ago by the early farmers, and it's just an expanse of thousands and thousands of acres of farmland.
The farmers get a lease payment every year. I think the numbers that I were giving, I think it's over $600,000 a year goes to farmers in their lease payments. A great benefit to the farmers, they can farm up to the base of the turbine. Yes, there's not a lot of land that's wasted.
When I heard of a potential $600 million project coming to our county, I was excited. Being as close to the ocean as it is, we get some very strong northeast winds here. It's clean, it doesn't take up the farmland that the solar panels do, and you really almost don't even notice they're out there. One of the reasons it took a while for it to be built was they wanted to sell the energy first. They wanted to have a contract buyer, so it took them a while to do it. And as you know, Amazon stepped in and bought the credits.
But yeah, people do comment on it when they come into town, again, it's just different. You're not going to see them anywhere else, in the state. But it hasn't been without controversy either. Obviously, there's people out there that don't like looking at the red lights that flash at night. But overall, I think it's been good for the county. I don't know of any other counties out of the 100 in North Carolina between Pasquotank and Perquimans that have a nice wind farm like this.
So happy to be joined by these panelists. Brian, Catherine, thanks for being with us. Brian, let's talk about renewable energy in rural areas. How is this an economic development strategy?
Yeah, renewable energy has really been one of the biggest economic development opportunities for rural areas, and I think it comes in about 3 different areas. You've got significant jobs that are created as a result of the construction of renewable energy projects and the operations. You've got increased tax base that counties can use for things like schools and roads and improvements. And you've got income for landowners, especially struggling landowners that might be trying to hold on to a family farm. It's a great way for them to keep land in the family.
And your work is in solar. Give us some idea of the economic impact of solar in North Carolina.
Yeah, just in 2018, if you look at the property taxes that our company, Strata Solar, paid in North Carolina, it was over $2.2 million in property taxes that would not have been there without these renewable energy projects. And those taxes, like I said, they're going to local counties, and they're coming without a lot of overhead, so there's not a lot of expense associated with those. So all that money can flow to the bottom line and be used for things like education, schools, healthcare, and improving the county.
And Catherine, of course, wind is also an important source of renewable energy. How's the story different in terms of the economic impact?
I think it's actually quite similar. So with wind, you get the same three really important factors in terms of economic development: jobs, landowner payments, and local county tax payments. For example, the one project that is currently developed, the One Wind project in eastern North Carolina, called the Amazon Wind Farm US East. That project is 208 megawatts, which is a fairly large wind project. The landowner payments are spread across 60 landowners. They are $6,000 for each turbine placed on a farmer's land. The farmer is able to farm right up to the base of that turbine, so they're still able to continue with previous land use. The tax payments are significant. The project is the largest taxpayer in both Pasquotank and Perquimans County, where the project is located. And the project employs 18 full-time staff.
What kinds of jobs are we looking at, Brian, in solar? And then I'll come back to you, Catherine, to hear about wind.
Yeah, so we've got jobs that run the gamut. In our in our headquarters, we have everything from lawyers and accountants and marketers and project managers to a number of professionals. And out in the field, we have technicians that work on the solars, maintain the equipment. We have folks who maintain the grounds, so landscape maintenance. And it really runs the gamut. And on the construction side, you've got very intense labor requirements on the construction side. So building a solar farm of a pretty large scale, you could have 400 to 500 people employed for a year and a half on a project of that size.
Are we talking similar scale when we talk wind, Catherine?
There were over 500 construction jobs at peak construction, and because those projects take so long to build, you're talking about at least a year of construction jobs. And then full-time operating and maintenance jobs, those are wind turbine technicians. Those jobs don't require a 4-year degree, but they pay an average of $80,000 a year. And that project specifically employs 18 wind turbine technicians and managers who are on site.
Solar is another fast-growing form of renewable energy. As many as 150 solar facilities have been built across North Carolina. Let's look at the impact of a solar facility in Gates County. This solar farm maximizes its efficiency with technology that tracks the sun's location.
So the Gates County solar farm, we call Gates Solar, and it's a 5 megawatt solar farm that's using tracking technology. The tracking technology goes from east to west, maximizing the amount of power you generate in the morning and in the afternoon. The northeastern part of North Carolina is very special when it comes to solar generation. And when you look at what location gets the most solar, it's the northeastern part of North Carolina that's part of that network. And that creates a lot of opportunities for solar and jobs in solar and property taxes that can be generated from the installation of these plants. I think a good example is to look at Gates Solar, where before we had solar on that property, it was paying about $300 a year in property taxes. Now it's paying over $20,000 a year in property taxes, and that'll go on for the next 15 to 20 years. In rural areas, very often you have a lot more agriculture and livestock farmers. And so this creates opportunities for livestock farmers to place sheep outside of their own pastures to let their own pastures rest. At the same time, it reduces the need for us to use mowing, weed eating, and other kind of gas burning processes to maintain the vegetation on these farms. But what we're looking at here is an industry that's really in its infancy. We'll see that there'll be more solar, but there'll also be more battery storage. There'll be opportunities for our universities, from our community colleges, from all sectors of our economy that will be part of the supply chain of this new form of energy.
Brian, what are some significant barriers to expanding the renewable energy economy?
Really, most of the barriers that we see today are access to the market. And in some states, we have better access to the market than others. But what's not a barrier today is cost. You know, it used to be for renewable energy. Today, renewable energy, solar and wind are both as cost competitive as any other technology out there. And so we're at a point now where we can compete directly on cost, and what we need now is access to the markets.
Catherine, what about in wind?
I think that currently the biggest barriers to wind development, further wind development in North Carolina, are sending those stable policy signals. We continue to see a couple of folks in the General Assembly who aren't very big fans of wind, and again, that kind of uncertainty can steer a number of developers away. But as Brian said, you know, these technologies are cost competitive. They are bring so much to local economies that there's certainly a number of communities that are asking for these projects.
So let's focus on those communities for a second. Brian, how does the community get into this game?
Well, we've gotten a lot of communities into this game in North Carolina so far. Our company alone has built over 150 solar farms in the state. And where we really like to do business is with those communities that welcome us, that make it clear what their needs are from a permitting and zoning perspective. And then we work very closely with the counties and the local jurisdictions to make it a successful project for both us and them.
Catherine, who are typically the leaders at the local level that are developing the strategy?
Those would be county commissioners. This is a case where those local permitting regimes really say a lot to developers in terms of, yes, please, by all means, bring that incredible investment to our locale.
Renewable energy facilities often pump millions of dollars into a community. Let's look at the impact of how these renewable energy facilities are helping develop rural economies.
We have both a mix of solar and wind. It's really cool to be able to drive down the Highway 17 bypass and see that mix of solar and wind energy and know that, you know, I feel like Pasco County has kind of been a leader for renewable energy in the state. I think it's added tremendously to our local economy, and you know, the best thing is it doesn't demand services. Once we got through the initial review process and permitting process, that's pretty much it. I mean, we don't have to provide schools or police protection for those sites. You know, they don't demand any services. We benefited during construction tremendously from hotel stays, from gas supplies that were bought. You know, that sort of project, there was a lot of dirt and soil and asphalt and all sorts of equipment that was bought locally that helped benefit our economy.
So the Amazon wind farm, they are the largest taxpayer in the county with $520,000. I think Walmart's second behind them at $117,000 to give you some idea of the benefit that the wind farms brought to the county. So, you know, our tax rate's 77 cents. So if we didn't have this, our tax rate would probably be 79 or so, which, you know, if you're a county commissioner like you had in here a minute ago, that's a big deal. You want your tax rate to be as low as possible.
There's a balance that has to be struck, and you know, we don't want to be inundated by solar farms all over the county, but it's a good source of revenue, and for some areas it might be a better use than farming.
I'm pleased to be joined in this segment by Don Vaart, Senior Fellow with the John Locke Foundation. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We're talking rural economies. What is the prospect of renewable energy serving as a catalyst?
Well, certainly North Carolina is a great place to study that question. We have had a dramatic increase in solar development, especially in eastern North Carolina. We also have one of the larger wind farms on the East Coast here in North Carolina, up in northeast North Carolina. So we certainly have a lot of information that we can use to decide what's next. But money is part of it. If it were easy, we'd already have a completely solar/wind energy system. But in fact, we're at the point in North Carolina, we're now second in the nation in solar capacity installed, that the easy locations to put these farms are gone. And so now you're looking at having to People call it grid modernization, you call it redoing their grid, but we'll have to spend some money to provide the grid the kind of upgrade it needs for more solar.
And where does that funding come from?
Right, and that's exactly one of the issues in a recent dispute between the solar industries and Duke Power. Duke was trying to get somebody else to pay for that, probably the solar companies, and the solar companies wanted Duke to fund some of that, and Duke did come forth with a proposal, a $13 billion proposal to do a lot of work, including modernize the grid, and that's in the process. So ultimately, it'll probably be the ratepayer who pays for that. Wind also is because both are intermittent sources, that is, they work sometimes, that puts a lot of stress on the grid. So, you know, wherever you place it, the grid's got to be able to handle that. You've also got to build additional combustion turbines or some other kind of power that is what we call dispatchable to make up the difference, unless we get storage, some sort of battery storage, hydraulic storage, or some way to store the power that solar farms are producing during the day, but they can't at night.
And that would be a game changer for the industry.
Totally a game changer. We're not there yet. That is where in my opinion, we need to develop and spend more money. But North Carolina, being, like I said, a leader, has certainly shown that you can drop the price of solar, for example, if a lot of investments are made, and a lot of investments have been made. So we've seen solar prices come down somewhat.
Right. So you mentioned dispute, and you talked about one with respect to who pays for modernizing the grid. We're focusing on local communities that are coming together to really embrace renewables. What kinds of disputes are we likely to see at the local level?
So some of the issues that they face, obviously there's good tax revenues coming in when you've got a plant of any kind producing, in this case, electricity, but they could produce tires or some other commodity. And so that's always a benefit.
What kinds of disputes are we likely to see at the local level?
So some of the issues that they face, obviously there's good tax revenues coming in when you've got a plant of any kind producing, in this case, electricity, but they could produce tires or some other commodity. And so that's always a benefit. These industries, both wind and solar, do take a lot of footprint. And so you're having to weigh the opportunity cost of, you know, what could you do with, you know, the land if it weren't used for a solar or wind installation. So you have that. You've also got NIMBY, not in my backyard type complaints. You're seeing that around the country. You've seen it here in North Carolina. Typically, that's why you need a very, very rural setting so that you don't have a lot of people objecting. You saw offshore wind being protested up off the shore of Cape Cod, for example.
Right.
Well, they didn't want to look at those windmills while they were sunning. So those are issues. There are also subsidies that are being provided that the local communities are paying for. There is a 80% tax break for the improved property values when a solar plant comes in. Some people say, hey, why do I have to help pay for that? And then finally, the whole question is the total electricity cost. Yeah. And when the electricity costs are low, you are able to bring manufacturers in and other jobs. So you have to weigh those as well, and that's a difficult task and that's why energy policy. People talk all about energy policy. We don't have an energy policy. Sure, we do.
It's tough stuff.
It's tough
it's
stuff.
Tough
if it were easy, we wouldn't be talking about it.
Don, thank you so much for sharing.
Sure.
We all share many of the same challenges in our communities, so why not share the solutions as well? Each and every one of us can make a difference. That's what having an impact is all about.
ncIMPACT is made possible by funding from Civic Federal Credit Union. ncIMPACT is a production of UNC-TV Public Media North Carolina in association with the University of North Carolina School of Government.